Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Hell yeah.
They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second.
Something about scores and something else, and something to the extent of I'm supposed to know the time by some scores. So he never said he never said anything that would take away from the speech. He was so focused on his speech, and people today, including myself, we can learn a lot from that. So one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast too is so I could become a better speaker. I'm listening to myself and constantly correcting. So I'm sure, I drive some people nuts, but you are helping me in some ways, and hopefully I'm helping you in other ways. And one of the things about Abraham Lincoln, I almost forgot his quote, was we're as happy as we choose to be. And that couldn't be more true. Just yesterday, my stupid, I have a Jeep and I don't drive it often, and I go to start it. Of course, it's dead. Poor me, I put my hands up, look at the universe, and say, why me? And here, there's Iraqis that are fleeing from ISIS, and carrying their kids and worrying about where their next food and where their shelter is going to come from, and I'm just one step removed from cursing God of how bad my day's going. But luckily it wasn't too bad, but it was still bad enough to where I wasn't the happiest about my way of handling it. Especially I had my wife and my daughter were sitting in the other car watching. And anyway, come to find out, the battery wasn't dead because I was charging it. It's just the terminals were sometimes if they're not super tight, or if there's a little bit of corrosion on the posts, you just need to turn it and kind of give it a new connection, and it starts just fine. So I figured that out after about the second time of jumping it. What kind of made it a bummer is I'm like, all right, I live on a hill, so I'm like, all right, sweet, I'll just jump start it. And so I'm going down my driveway, and it's stick shift, so I go to jump start it, and since the terminals weren't hooked up, it didn't for whatever. Sometimes the engine needs more juice than just the motor can provide. It needs a battery. So yeah, it was not my proudest moment, but at the same time, it could have been a lot worse. I could have totally had a meltdown, and I think that would have made it harder to be happy the rest of the day. In that something happened. I went to a meeting, and I was talking to. We have a board in our food company, and we were kind of at a stalemate with some products, and luckily I was a part of coming up with a new idea, a pretty good idea to launch some new products that should be pretty successful if we do it the right way. There's a system to success when it comes to launching things and making them successful. Unfortunately, that system is very arduous. It's not exciting, and you just got to be in a position to do it. And so many people get out of that position by spending all their money or getting bored and wanting to move on to other things. Sure, there's the things that just take off, no problemo. The Hatchables of the world and all these things, and you can't really count on something going viral. I can't tell you how many times people tell me, oh, we should make a video, it's going to go viral, and then we'll have all these things, and then we'll throw an advertisement on the end. And I'm like, look, the fact that it's going to millions of people, and there's millions and millions and millions of videos already out there, and only a few rise to the top, and they wind up making money. It's because it's rare. If it was, if there was a science behind making something go viral, then everybody would be doing it, and guess what? It wouldn't pay, because it wouldn't be rare, because everybody would be doing it. It'd just be like having a red pair of shoes. If you knew how to go get red shoes and that could make you a lot of money, something has to break. That in economics, it's that invisible hand. Not everybody's going to be, let's face it, successful. Not every product's going to be successful, but there is a way of making a product make you money. It's just it's a lot of work and everything else. But in any event, so we're going through this, and I felt really good at the end of the meeting. We all did, and I think one of the reasons maybe I felt as responsible as anybody for having these ideas, and so if I would have been and this all comes back around to happiness. If I would have been the type of person to say, life's horrible because my stupid Jeep wouldn't start, I'm all pissed off, and then I go to work, and then, the work's not successful, and then like, this good thing happened at work, so now I got to battle that with me being super upset, so it's harder for me to be happy, so to speak, when if I would have handled that as good as I can handle it, and I get the jury's out on whether I handle it good or not. I guess it could have been worse. For me, it could have been worse. I could have did a lot. I could have taken every tool I had in my hand and threw it in my neighbor's yard across the street or something. And so now it's easy for me to shoot up a notch because there's nothing holding me back. And there's so many things holding us back from going to the next level, from being happy, whether it's guilt or just and let's face it, sometimes it does feel good to be angry, that you're upset, and being angry it does fire a certain cylinder that we have, but I think ultimately we want to fire the other cylinders because they're a lot better for us, or a lot better for us, and it's going to be harder to do that when we're in the depths of being upset, and especially because it does feel a little bit good. I was reading the Happiness is a Serious Problem, one of the few books that's actually written on happiness, and they talk about another way that you could be unhappy is just if you feel like a victim. If you're always feeling like a victim, because they say if you're a victim of something, like if I would have said, "Oh, this car, it's not starting, poor me," and then now this, and actually I had some other stuff going on too at the time. I have a diabetes pump that was beeping, and I couldn't find my kit to calibrate it, to set it, and it's like, so if you feel like, okay, you're a victim, in that moment, you cannot be happy while you're a victim, because victims can't be happy because, look at, the whole world is against you. So it's getting out of the poor me and saying, okay, here's something that's happening, we got to fix it. And, the fact that I did fix it gives me a good story to tell. And then, you come to find out I'm not running late anyway. Everybody else is late yesterday, so it wasn't a big deal. But you don't want to get yourself into that victim state, and you could use that on a grand scale. If people are saying, "Oh, you guys as a community are victims," and I don't, even you talk about when the Irish came, they're like, "Oh yeah, the Irish, they're just a bunch of drunks," and this is when they first were coming to America, and that's how they came up with the term paddy wagon, is because all the Irish, they're drinking again, let's send the van over. And so they feel like, oh yeah, we're drunks, and I was raised by a drunk, and the kids of the Irish, and if everybody feels like, oh, poor us, then you're going to be handcuffed by that because it's something pulling you down. But if you could just say, look, we're all our own man, own woman, and sure, there's highs and lows in everybody's life, and my job is just to make the most of the highs. That will help you to not kind of stay in the cellar, so to speak, because even if it's true, even if your parents were drunks, that doesn't mean that you can't write your own script. The old saying is, what's the term limit or the statute of limitations on your parents misbehaving? Are you 20 years later, are you still going to complain about, oh, my dad was drinking, so therefore I got to drink? Oh, my dad was bad with money, so I'm bad with money. And like I always say, in the information age, you can punch out of anything if you're willing to do the work. Most anything. It's not going to be easy, but few things are. And if something was easy, it would not be as rewarding. So, and the other thing too is you could always find somebody in your situation that is doing started out from a position that's not as good as yours, with less tools, less skills, less brain power. Somehow they had enough grit and they moved past where they thought they could ever what they thought they could ever achieve. And so to put yourself in the situation, oh, I can't do this because of that. Well, that's something that's holding you down. I remember somebody that was working for me, and they were just, every time they show up for work, just a bad mood, just poor me. And I think he had DUI, and he wasn't even going to jail at the time. I think he had to serve a few days and got out, and just poor me, and I'm thinking, the guy, I think I told him this too. I said, look, you could be working at any point next to somebody that is having problems that are a lot worse than what you're going through right now, and you'll never know it, because people, they choose what's going to come to the surface. You choose that you're going to have a pity party and everybody's going to feel bad for you, and mostly it was because of his DUI. And what was ironic is, at the time, I just went through something where I was on my dirt bike and I got in an accident. I was going up a hill. It was kind of a technical face, almost a big rock face, and my back tire hit some sand, and then went to the side, hooked up, and I went over the top side of my dirt bike, and I wound up breaking my back, and going through a lot of things. And then on top of everything else, I was on vacation. I just finished lunch, and I had a couple Coronas. Literally a couple Coronas. And so the Highway Patrol, when they came out, they arrested me for a DUI. And I told the Highway Patrol, I go, look, it's not like I hit the side of the trailer. I was, by myself, going up a technical hill. Stuff happens. That's why I have all this gear. And I am on vacation, but if you can't drink the stuff, just ban it. And he did not want to change the world right then and there just for me, so he stuck with it and said, I'm just doing my job. And eventually I beat it, because the blood test came back, and that it was good. But for months I had to go to court and blah blah blah, and I think it was a .065 or something. And so I'm gone through this too. And if I brought it up, it would be for a conversation for him, but it wouldn't be so I could be a Debbie Downer, and I was going through a lot of other stuff too. Like my wife just had a miscarriage, and I can go on and on about Anna was being sued for $300,000 or whatever. And all these things are true, but I'm sitting next to the guy, and somehow I'm happy, and he's miserable, and it's because the way he's compiling his thing, he's just focused on the negative, and he's not working at it. Now he has a bad attitude, feels like he's a victim, because he'd always complain about the system, kind of like I just did a little bit. But it's all about levels too, of how much are you going to complain.